Well, welcome. This is going to be a quick tutorial about how I edit videos. Now, we're going to be doing a video for our abortion ministry today, but normally this is the process that I would do for a God Loves Mormons video. So if you're trying to understand how the editing process works, if you just want to learn a little bit of the programs, then this hopefully will be a helpful video for you. So let me just take a sip of my blueberry lemonade and then we'll get started. So I'm going to start keeping all of the footage that we take on these solid state drives. Now, the advantage of these drives is that they're incredibly speedy, meaning that we should be able to actually edit our videos straight from the drive without needing to load them onto the computer, which would be, got a phone call, which would be really helpful. Red is for abortion. Gray is going to be God Loves Mormons, or I'm sorry, blue will be God Loves Mormons, and the gray is going to be the JW videos that we're doing. A couple of days ago, we filmed like 9 videos or something like that. One of them being an abortion video, 3 of them being God Loves Mormons, and then the rest being for JWs. And the reason I'm doing the abortion one is because the next video I want to release for God Loves Mormons is not one of our standard videos, and I thought it'd be helpful to show kind of what a standard video looks like, and the one that is going to be the easiest to do that with is this abortion one. So let me plug in this drive, and we'll get started. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and pull up my script, which I have on my iPad there. It's really important to reference so that we know exactly what part we're editing. A lot of times when recording it, I'll skip a line or something and then I'll have to go back and do it. So having the script here ensures that I don't miss anything while editing, which has actually happened before. First things first, we're going to take our Finder window down here, and this is the drive I plugged in. It's called Abortion Vids. If I go here into February 2021, I normally index the videos we record by months. You'll see here I have a source folder, and that has all of our files that we recorded for that day. So if I go in here and hit spacebar, it'll pull up some of the stuff there. So if I'm editing off the drive, I can just make my file stuff here. But let's say that the drive isn't fast enough or we're having hiccups or something like that. What I'll do is I will hit Command-N, which will open a new window over here. And then I will come over to God Loves Mormons, enter video files, and then in here I can make a February 2021 folder. And then what I like to do is I like to make a folder structure. It's where I'm going to be putting all of the files for the project. So I almost always do a source, if I could spell, source, which is the source files. Then I do PRAE, which stands for Adobe Premiere and Adobe After Effects. This is where my Premiere and After Effects source file will go, and all of their backups and everything will fall into that folder. Then I'm going to do a render folder, and then I do a MISC. Now, depending on the project, sometimes I might add media for like images, or I might do animations, or I'll split up the folders for what's going to be a part of that video, but usually MISC is good enough to catch all the kind of things that I will be doing. So I'm going to go here into source, and then I will drag all of these files in here. I don't have enough disk space, so I'm going to try and edit off this drive. If it's a problem, then I'll go in and delete some of the stuff. So let's actually, I have my files here in source on the drive. So I'm going to come down here and open Adobe Premiere. It'll bounce a little bit. All right, over in Premiere, we're going to come to the left, and we're going to hit New Project. It's going to open this box with a bunch of settings that you can pretty much ignore. Go to this Browse button and the location there. It'll open this box. Go to wherever you want to save the source Premiere file. So if you're doing it on the computer, do it in the God Loves Mormons folder under February 2021. We are going to do it on our solid state drive. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And I will name this Image of God Master. Then hit enter. You can see here it's created our file. It's a Premiere project. And I have it set up right now. You can't really see, but I have 2 screens set up to for editing. For the sake of this video, we're just going to roll with one screen. So if you look at the top of the screen here, you see a bunch of different screen layout options. Two screen edits is what I normally use. I'm just going to go ahead and go to editing right here, and that will go ahead and squish this all onto one very tiny screen. In here, in the project bin, it says import media to start. I'm going to go ahead and double click, which will open up this Finder box here. I'm going to go into where my source files are. I'm going to hit Command A to highlight them all, and then import. And this will drag all of those files that we've taken and actually put them in Premiere so that we can work with them and edit them and things like that. So here are those files. If I go ahead and double click on a file, you see here we are. Look at that good looking handsome man right there. Okay, so now we have to try and figure out exactly which file is the file we're looking for. So I know that I'm not Luke, so, you know, that's not me. I'll listen real quick to some of these. Okay, so it looks like this file is my file. So I'm going to go ahead and rename and say image of God. These other ones are different. Different videos. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit this new item, or I can right click in here, either one. Go to new item, and I'm going to do a new sequence, which will open up this file. I have a preset here called Bradley 1080. That's the default settings that I normally use for God Loves Mormons videos. So I'm going to type in here, image of God master, which will open up my timeline down here. Now you're going to see down here is the audio portion, and up here's the video portion. If I wanted, I can rearrange this however I want. So I'm going to go ahead and drag my image of God file in here just like this. If I drop, it'll ask, would you like to keep the existing settings or change your sequence settings? Now, the reason it does this is because we film the videos in 4K, but this sequence is in 1080. That means that there's a difference in resolution. So it wants to know, well, should I change the project to match the original setting of the video, or do you just want to keep it and have it be a little weird? Now, we want it to be weird, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and hit Keep Existing Settings. This is the weird that I was talking about right here. It is pushed in because the 4K camera has more data, more information than my sequence can actually handle. So the first thing we're going to do is go in here to Effect Controls, and we're going to just go ahead and scale this down. And you'll notice I can make it as big or small as I want. 50% is going to be exactly full frame. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, one thing I want to note is, let's say I go to drag in image of God, and if you notice here, it's only showing up as an audio file. It doesn't show up as video. Sometimes that will happen, and it happens because we've turned off our video timeline here. So I would need to click, I think it's that one. Nope, it's not that one. It's this one, this left button there, and I can kind of choose which one it goes on. If I click that, it will allow me to drop it in. Sometimes that happens. Just be aware that that occurs. Okay, so now that we have our file in here, we need to go ahead and link the audio file to this video file. So I'm going to look over here, and if you see there's a thing here that says media duration. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And media duration will separate and organize all my different files in here by how long they are. If you notice my image of God master, this is my sequence right there. That's a sequence icon. That's 2216, which is the same exact length as the video, 2216. If you look right here, the zoom file is 2215, so 1 second off. That is, well, I guess this is 2245, but this is closer. So I'm going to go ahead and test this file by dragging it in. And if you notice, I can just put it wherever I want. If I overwrite it, it will literally overwrite the file. That's a bad thing. Command Z, it undoes what I just did. So I'm going to take this, drag it in below the file I already dragged in. And now you can see if I zoom in by holding Option and then scrolling on my mouse. Up and down, zooms in and out. Additionally, I believe I could hit Z, which is zoom, and then I could pick the parts I want to zoom, or click. Holding Option then would let me zoom out, but I find it faster to just use that Option key and then zoom in and out like that. So if I zoom in here, we're going to see that there are waveforms that more or less match up. However, if I go ahead and play this,
Genesis indicates that this image is
that's not good. I'm gonna make sure my audio hardware here is. It is. Yep, good. Okay, so that's not good. We obviously want the audio to be synced up, or it's not going to sound very good. So there's a really cool thing in Premiere. If I select both of these files, I can right-click and then go to this button that says Synchronize. If I hit that button, it's going to have all these options. All we want is audio. Make sure that's clicked, which it should by default be. Hit OK, and it's going to go ahead and analyze all the waveforms and sync up my audio perfectly, which is very convenient. You know, we don't have to do our little marker clap thing to organize by waveform. Now, if we listen to it,
Genesis indicates that this image
still doesn't sound great, but at least now it sounds like it's one file and not an echo. Now, the reason it doesn't sound great is because this top part is actually the audio that's coming from the camera. The camera doesn't have a particularly good mic. It's far away from me, and so it's very echoey. The lobby is kind of echoey. This file here is the mic that I'm wearing. You can kind of see I have a little lapel right there that I put on here when I film. That's this audio file here, the one from the Zoom that I dragged in. So if I were to come over here, this button here is mute and solo. I could go ahead and mute this camera audio and then hear just what the mic sounds like. And take a look at this.
Genesis indicates that this image is inherently related.
So that's significantly better. So that's what we're going to want to do. Additionally, you could solo a track. Solo does the same thing. You select the tracks you want to play instead of the ones you want to mute out.
Related.
But the problem with this mic is it's kind of muddy. Because it's in my shirt, it just doesn't sound ideal. And so what I want to do is edit the audio waveform a little bit to be a little less muddy, sound a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this file. You're going to see an option here that says Edit Clip in Adobe Audition. Now, if that is grayed out, the world is ending. So run for the hills. No, I'm just kidding. It usually means that there is some sort of version problem where Adobe Audition is not the same version as Premiere. If that happens, give me a ring. Or if I'm dead, then figure out how to update the software. Go ahead and click that button, and it is going to do something called Render and Replace, which basically takes this file, it re-renders it really quickly, and then it takes that rendered file and it will drop it automatically into another Adobe program called Adobe Audition, which, as soon as this is done, should start bouncing. It's not bouncing yet. Oh, there we go. There's the bouncing. There it is. Okay, this happens all the time. I could probably hit delete, but I don't. I hit later because who wants to hit delete when you're not sure what you're deleting? Okay, so this is the waveform for our video. If we hold Option and zoom in, you can see really closely here. You can hit spacebar to play. Also, I don't know if I said that. You hit spacebar to start playing the whatever you're editing. So this is, an audio file. What we want to do is first we want to kind of manage some of the echo. So the lobby is very echoey, and I already made a preset that helps deal with that. What we need to do is find a relatively quiet section. This looks pretty good. We're going to zoom in and make sure there's no peaks, no artifacts. So there's kind of a little something there. It's kind of hard to see, and a little something there. So I'm going to go ahead and just in the middle here, highlight just a little section. I might do a little longer than that. Just like that. If I hit spacebar, it's going to sound like nothing because it's just background noise. But if I go up here to Effects and then hit Noise Reduction / Restoration, I'm going to hit Noise Reduction Process. If I click that, it's going to pop up with this little error saying your noise print is undefined. Basically what it's saying is it needs to take a sample of the audio in order to edit the whole thing and make some of the noise disappear. So I've selected my noise print. I'm going to hit Capture Noise Print, and you'll see here then this appears like a little graph. If I hit play, it does nothing. So up here I'm going to come up to Lobby Echo, which is a preset I made, which presets some of this. This is a really important step. If you don't do this, it's not going to do anything. Whatever you select is where it's going to apply the effect. So right now, this effect is going to be applied on this very small sliver of time. So what I'm going to want to do is click off of that. Notice my white thing disappeared. Then I want to hit Command A. And you'll notice up here, this is the whole file. If I zoom out, the whole audio file is now selected. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, and it will apply that noise reduction to the entire audio file. Okay, now that that's done, I want to EQ my voice. I don't think it sounds super nice. So I'm gonna come in here, and maybe I feel like I really want to have a deeper voice, so I can just go ahead and drop this down a little bit.
God gave mankind over all
I think that sounds better, but personal preference, I guess. In all seriousness, if you want to edit the EQ, which you want to edit the EQ, come down here to Filter and EQ. You're going to find something called parametric. Wait, I did that in the wrong order. I'm glad I stopped myself. First, we want to put a multi-band compressor. Long story short, it's going to make it sound better. It's not really important what it does. If you come down here, there's, I believe it is pop. Nope, it's not. It's raise. Nope. I think it's Pop Master.
And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God made man in his own...
Okay, so yeah, you're going to come down here to Pop Master, which is just going to change kind of the distribution of frequencies in my voice. So if you listen to it...
After our likeness.
Now, if you look here, you'll see that this is over here peaking. If I put this up high, it's just going to stay peaking. If I put it down really low, it'll be way too low. So I want to try and get this to where it doesn't peak every time, but it does have some range. So if I...
Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness."
Looks like -1 might be... Yeah, -1 looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and apply, and it'll go ahead and apply that to the whole thing. Again, if you have a segment selected here, be sure that you hit Command-A to get the whole thing in view. Okay, now that that's done, one more effect. I'm going to go to Effects, now Filter and EQ, Parametric Equalizer, and I have a custom thing already set up, but I believe Lobby Echo here is what you want if somehow this looks very different than this. I'm going to go ahead and apply. Boom, that is going to now make me just sound wonderful. Let's listen.
Our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion.
That versus this.
And let them have dominion over the fish.
You might not be able to hear there, but there is a sizable difference in muddiness. So now that this is done, I keep this program open just in case something doesn't work right. I'm going to go down here and go back to Adobe Premiere, or I could go to my rubber duck, but no, I think I'll stick with Premiere for now. If I come back in here, remember I have both of these audio files still going. So what I want to do is delete this audio track. We don't need it. We're not going to use it. We used it for syncing. We're done with it. But if you notice, if I hit delete, oh no, I deleted my video file. That's not good. So Command-Z, what we're going to want to do is right-click, unlink. These two things are linked. I have keybound that, I believe, to Command-L. I don't know remember if that's Premiere's default or not, but Command-L now allows me to select individual tracks. I'm going to go ahead and select this, hit delete. Now there's just the one file synced to my lips. Look at that. It's like magic. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it up just like that. That creates a nice, nifty little sequence here. But if you've ever been with me in filming the Loves Mormons videos, which you probably haven't, you'll know that I am just really terrible at doing this well. And so I stutter a lot and I make mistakes. And so what I need to do is cut out all of the bad parts of it and just combine all the good parts to make a well-flowing video. So what we're going to do that, we're going to come over here and actually I'm going to create a new bin and I'm going to say source files, just because this is getting kind of messy out here. I want to use it for other things. I'm going to drag all of these and plop them in source files, so I don't have to look at it, because I don't want to look at it. If I come down here to these two things, I'm going to select both of them, and I'm going to right-click and hit something called Make Subsequence. What a subsequence is going to do is essentially just duplicate this sequence, or whatever I've highlighted into its own sequence. Now, that's, at this point, pretty redundant. You'll see if I drag this in, it literally is this file, but now linked, that's kind of nice. going to go ahead and delete that. What I'm going to do is double click this file, and you'll notice here I now have this subsequence, which they're the exact same thing. What I want to do is go in here into the master file and delete these two synced files I just had after I've made the subsequence. Now, the reason I want to do that is because this master is where I'm going to make my final file, where I'm going to render everything out of. So I want that to be only the video clips I actually want in there. So if I come up here, back up to the screen layouts, you're going to notice this thing called GLM Rough Edit. If I click that, it's going to rearrange my screen. Now I have something on the other screen. Let me drag that back in here. There it is. And now I have both of my sequences lined up there. If for some reason that doesn't happen, or if they're messed up, you'll see what I did. You can just grab this title thing and you can pin it to one of the sides here. So I can either, pin it with the other sequence, or I can drop it below. Actually, what I want to do is I want to have this master on bottom. Anyway, so you can go ahead and rearrange however you see fit. I'm going to drag down these things to give us a little more room here. If we notice, if we play up here, we have our file. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm just going to quite simply go through and hit play and see.
Everyone who has a GA on my Google.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and see what I've said. This is what I've recorded.
Christians believe that all abortion is morally wrong. And we believe this quite simply because that's what the Bible teaches.
Okay, so I did that once, but let's say I didn't like that. Let's say I messed up. Let's say it didn't sound good. I try and record every line twice, 2 times. I'm going to encourage anyone who does these videos to do that same thing. We do 1 take, each line twice. So I'm going to come over here to the second take and see how that sounds.
Christians believe that all abortion is morally wrong. And we believe this quite simply because it's what the Bible teaches.
Let's see if this is the same thing.
Scripture tells us
Nope. Okay, I'm going to go with the second take because the number 2 is cooler than the number 1. In order to get this from here to here, I'm going to use my razor tool right here. What my razor tool does is it snips up into smaller things that then I can take and move around if I want. I'm going to undo that. The shortcut key for that is just C. You'll also notice if you hold Shift, you can slice everything all at once. So if you have multiple things on your layers here, you want to cut all of them, you can hold the Shift button to cut all of them. I'm going to go ahead and make a cut there and then come to the end. I can see by the waveform where I am done talking, I'm going to come near the end, hold Shift, and click there as well. I forgot to do this audio track. Okay, now we have this file. Now, I like something called non-destructive editing. What that means is this synced file is really nice to have on hand. Let's say I put all my video together and one of the way I said things, or maybe the movement of my hands just doesn't gel with the next shot. I might want to replace it with this. If I start deleting all over the place, I'm going to not easily be able to pull in another take or anything like that. So what I do is I come here and I copy by doing Command C, and then I come down here and I paste. So I'm going to go to the very beginning and paste. I'm going to zoom in on this timeline, just make sure it sounds good.
Christians believe that all abortion is morally wrong.
Okay, so if I go ahead and come back here to my script, I can see, okay, next line is Scripture tells us God made man in his image. So let's go ahead and see how this sounds.
Scripture tells us that God made man in his image, a fact that separates mankind from the rest of creation.
Okay, so you notice here I kind of stuttered.
A fact that
I don't love that. It's nice to not stutter. So I'm going to try this next one.
Scripture tells us that God made mankind in his image, a fact which makes humanity precious and completely different from the rest of creation.
Okay, so you notice there while it was playing, I already decided that I liked this one. So I just went ahead and just cut while it was playing. It just saves some time. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And when I paste it down here, you'll notice it's going to put it on the same line as this, but I don't want that. If you've ever watched, let's see if I can pull up our video here. If you ever watch our videos.
Having doctrinal conversations, some Latter-day Saints
Ooh, that's terrible quality. So notice this is a zoomed out shot.
when highlighting certain points of disagreement.
This is a zoomed in shot. So I'm going to want to alternate between zoomed out and zoomed in shots here. So Control over on the arrow key will move between desktop screens. So I'm going to come over here and I am going to move this up just like that. Now, you'll notice that that did nothing. That doesn't make it zoom in. We're going to make it zoom in, but I need to know which particular file or which particular shots I need to apply that effect to after we're done editing. Okay, that was the second thing. Let's go on to the third. This is yet some people argue.
Yet some people argue that even if a baby in the womb really is a human, such a human would not have the right to forcibly use a woman's body without her consent.
That was okay. Let's see this one.
Yet some people argue that even if a baby in the womb really is human, such a human would not have the right to forcibly use a woman's body without her consent.
Okay, I'm going to take the second one. I'm liking the second one these times. And you notice I'll just alternate back and forth. Let's try this one.
And thus, a woman...
Now, if you notice... So if you notice like similar waveforms, it probably means I messed up multiple times. So I might jump to the end here and start there just because I know that that's probably going to be better.
A woman who does not wish to have a baby would be justified in ending that baby's life, in murdering that child.
That was okay. Let's try.
And thus, a woman who does not want to have a baby would be justified in ending that baby's life, in murdering that child.
Yeah, I like this one better. Just going to go ahead and copy that, drag it down here, move that in. Oh, I forgot to say, C goes to my razor tool, but if I want to go back, there's this arrow. I can click that arrow, or that's the shortcut V. V is the arrow tool. So C and V are what I'm using here. Okay, so let's see the next line.
So the question is then, what does the image of God have to do with the issue of abortion?
Okay, so this right here skipped a line. Evidently, when I was recording this, I missed the line, skipped it. So I'm going to go forward and see if I catch that line. Let's see.
But Christians
There we go.
disagree because man bears God's image.
That is the line I missed.
But Christians disagree because man bears God's image.
I kind of like the first one. Let's take the first one and bring this down. And now we're going to jump back. This is why having the script in front of you is really important. We're going to jump back and take this one.
Bradley, this line
Oh,
is...
I made a note for myself. Look at that. Okay.
So the question is then, what does the image of God have to do with the topic of abortion?
Yeah, that's good. And that is kind of the hanging question that then we'll move into our intro. So to designate the intro, I will leave a gap here. So the very next line I do, which I believe is number 1. Let's see if it's here.
Question is then, what in the world does the image of God?
Here.
Number 1, mankind is in the image of God.
So I'm going to drag this just a little bit out to show this is where my title stuff is going to go. Now, if you notice here, I'm not looking at the screen. That's because in the script, this has a little pink bracket, which means this is going to be something that's going to be a full screen graphic. It's going to take up all the space on the screen. So if I don't want to do that right now, I'll take care of it later. What I'm going to do is right click. It'll open this. I'm going to go to label. And then I mark it with yellow. Yellow tells me, hey, later on you need to come back to this file. You need to do something more with it. It's not quite done, like add a scripture or something like that. So anytime I have a scripture that I'm looking down and reading that I want to be on screen, I mark with this yellow thing. Now, you'll notice sometimes I do like a typography, which means like I pop up the words that are synced with what I say. If I want to do something like that, or a lot of times that's not in the script. Sometimes I'm just watching it like, oh, that could work for that. As I'm editing, I'll right click and I make those tan. And it's just a slightly different color, so I know it's a different thing. Now, let's say I come across something that in the script looked okay, but when we filmed it, it just seems redundant. It just adds nothing helpful to the video. It's just an extra line that says something I've already said. That happens sometimes, where I want to cut lines. I don't like going off from the script while I'm actually making this rough edit. I want to make sure that I get everything that the script has in there, and then when I go through and watch it, I'm like, yeah, that really didn't work. So let's say I really didn't want this in here. Or I thought I might delete it later. I come in here and I make a magenta label. The magenta tells me, hey, this could get cut later. Come back and kind of evaluate if this is going to be worth cutting. Use whatever colors you like best, but those are the colors that I use. So I'm going to go ahead and go through here really quickly and rough edit the rest of this video. With the knowledge you have here, you should be able to get a just a rough compile a rough edit of the entire thing, and then we'll pick up once that's done. Okay, so I finished my rough edit here. If you notice here, I have a couple scriptures, a couple places where I'm going to do overlays, my break for the title, and all that fun stuff. So I'm pretty much done with this subsequence here. Also, just a good habit to get in. Every 10 seconds, hit Command S, just save, because this thing seriously crashes on me so much. So just save frequently so you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to come back over here to editing, which is going to reopen my main thing. Now, you'll notice here, this went back to the image of God subsequence. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And now this opens my main sequence. So the first thing I normally do is I take a whole bunch of assets from the previous videos that I've done. So what I'm going to do is come up here to File, and then I'm going to Open Recent. Now, if it's not recent, you might have to actually go in here and Open Project and find one in one of these folders. But I'm pretty sure we have one that we've recently done. So if I come in here and see, okay, Gospel and First Blood Recover 2. If it ever crashes, the program likes to rename the file after a bad crash because it tries to recover it. So I just do the squiggly and then recover, and then I just count up. So whatever the highest recover number is my most recent file. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and open that, and that is going to go ahead and open this God Loves Mormons file, which, if you notice right here, it's looking kind of similar. Look at that. So this was a previous video that I had done on it was something about the First Division, First Blood. But the thing I'm really interested in is this right here. This is the scriptures that we're putting on screen. And we don't have tons of these in the abortion video, but we do have a couple. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to highlight all of these, and I'm going to hit Command C. I'm going to go back to the image of God Master, and all of these yellow things are going to have overlays. This here, I believe, is number 1.
No, number 1.
Yep. So what I want is this.
Then God said,
That's a scripture right there. So if I just paste it right now, what you're going to notice is it literally overwrites what I have in there. I don't want that. So I'm going to Command Z, and what I'm going to do is right-click and add tracks. And then you can add a certain number of video tracks. I'm going to add 5 video tracks, which does that. Additionally, if you're too lazy for that, you can just take this and I'll show you here. If you just push this up, it'll keep making new video tracks. So maybe you want to do that instead. I don't know. But once I have this set up, I'm going to go over here and toggle some tracks a little higher up, not the tracks that this stuff's on. I'm going to choose where I want to paste it, and then Command V will drop it in up on, I believe it's the bottommost track. So this obviously doesn't line up with the right verse, but it is the look that we want. So this up here, these 2 things are the transition. This is just a cool little zip up and down that yeah, like that. You can kind of see how it looks. Does that really quickly. But this is not actually the beginning of what we want. This is just the beginning of the transition. So what I want to do is line up this with the very beginning of this yellow clip. So like this. So you'll notice that this transition is hanging over because we want my face to start transitioning into this verse. So if we play this,
then God said,
kind of like that. Also, you'll notice this red line means that whatever is underneath here is harder for it to render. It's going to be choppy. It's not going to look as good. So if you hit play and it just skips it, that doesn't mean that it's not going to work when you actually make the file. It's just when it's trying to play live and editing, it might struggle to do to make it work. So if I look at my script, this very first text is Genesis 1:26 through 27. So that's what I need to put in here. Now, I want to make sure that this goes the whole way and doesn't end in the middle of the verse. So I'm going to grab these 2. If I hold Shift, you can click multiple layers. You can also click and drag. I'm going to drag those out to match up at the end of the yellow thing there. And I'm going to drag this transition and zoom in and line it up just like that. Good. Now, you'll notice I did something. This happens to me all the time. Because I'm always holding Option to zoom in and out, if you hold Option, it will actually copy something. So you need to make sure you aren't holding Option while you're moving something. Otherwise, you'll run into that problem, which happens to me all the time. So I'm going to go over here and just go to BibleGateway.com. Make sure this is ESV. All of our stuff that we are doing is ESV, just for standardization sake. I'm going to type in Genesis 1, 26 through 27. Boom. It has this. Now, we'll notice a couple things like footnotes, verse numbers. I'm not going to want that in there. So if I go to page options, I can turn off footnotes and verse numbers. I'm going to click and drag, select all this, Command C. I'm going to go back over here. What I want to do, if I click on this here, then I click on this, I'm able to edit here. Now, long story short, it's not worth getting into why this is the case. I needed to use a different font for the quotation marks. So you cannot overwrite the quotation. Well, you can. You're technically able to. But if I overwrite the quotations and then try and put a quote, we ran into a different problem. It's not going to be right. This is the wrong font now, essentially. So what I do is I select this, and I take out my center, and then it's still not working. Okay. In that case, I leave the first letter and paste. Now this is the right font. So you'll notice if I make, and it's really not wanting to, it's making me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. It normally doesn't work. Okay, well, in any case, I am going to structure this so that it looks okay. What I come down here and there's the safe margins button. What the safe margins do is they allow you to know, like, you really don't want text going outside this second outermost box ever. Just in case the screen cuts things off or something weird happens. That's kind of your safe zone. The inner box is what you do for like titles. If you're having a title pop up, you don't really want the title to go outside of that, just so it's more central. So I'm going to pop that up, come back here and go to my selection tool. And I line up this quotation mark kind of near the top against that leftmost thing. Then I'm going to come in here and notice this quotation is different, and just the way you do quotations. If it's an inner quotation, we only do one, the single quotation instead of two. So I'm going to come here and actually copy and paste this quotation mark. Then I'm going to delete it and do a single one, and that will be in the same style quotation as that. Then I'm going to come over here. You'll notice image is hanging off. So I come to the word before image, and I backspace a new line. And then that is going to put it there. And then this is about as close to that as I can get, so I'm going to do that there. And then here. And then here. And this one's kind of tricky. I might try and do more and see how it looks. Yeah, see, you kind of have to play with it, see what looks best. Do this. Okay, so you notice some obvious problems here. Just getting this on here. Okay, lots of issues. First thing, this quotation here ends the single, not the double. So I'm going to copy, paste, backspace, and put it the right thing. Now, obviously, it's looking a little large. So if I go over to Effect Controls, go back to my selection tool by hitting V. Also, it's noteworthy, if you come on here and try and go back to your selection tool, you'll just type. So you cannot be select this box. If I go back to my timeline and hit V, then it'll switch tools. In any case, I'm going to pick this, and then if I come over to Effect Controls here, it'll open all of these things here. This controls the text for the two different text elements on the screen right now. One is the reference. I can hide that or show that by hitting the eyeball. Or if I hit this drop down, it's going to give me all of the options here. We have my fill color, my scale, font options, stuff like that. The font we use is called Summer Lovin' Sands, and then for the quotation mark, I do Babus New. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop this down to maybe 105. It's going to make it smaller. It's going to fit on the screen a little better, but I don't want it to feel too cramped. So if I come in here, you can kind of adjust the spacing between letters. That was at 34. I actually kind of like that. What I didn't like was I want a little bit, just a hair more space between the lines. That's this here. This thing here will give you space between the lines. So if you hold Shift, it will make big jumps. If you hold Command, it will kind of tweak it. And if you don't hold anything, it'll do a more regular thing. So I like holding Command to make it look good. I'm going to do something like that maybe. Maybe it was fine the way it was. Bring that down a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to restructure everything. So you'll notice I have a little bit more space. So I'm going to go through that. Just come through. Oh, I added a little thing there. I'm going to go and... So I'm hitting Enter for new line, and then I go backspace, and I come to this where I want to cut it. Backspace, Enter, and then I hit the down arrow to jump. It's hard to see, but I jump down a line, and then backspace, and then space to try and get that thing. This actually looks good there. I'm going to cut this after his, cut this after him, like that. Very good. Okay, so now we have this thing here that is there. But if I take this away, you'll notice it doesn't really look super centered. Also, this is the wrong reference, so I'm going to double click on that and change this to Genesis 1:26 through 27. Make sure that's kind of structured in the way I want it. But I want this centered here. So what I'm going to do is come to Window and open up something called Essential Graphics. Essential Graphics is not going to look super helpful at first. I'm going to drag this over here. If I go to Edit in Essential Graphics, it will give me another quick way to edit things. But it has this whole Align and Transform pane, which is really nice. You can actually edit the font size and colors in here, which is nice to have that open. So I'm going to go ahead and click my my main text there. And under Align and Transform, I am going to just, that vertically aligns it, and this horizontally aligns it. Okay. Now if I take this away, it's centered. But center actually doesn't look as good because of the reference is so low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this, hold Shift. Oh, no. First I need to click, and while I'm clicking, hold Shift. And I will move it up and down, and it won't move left and right. So I'm going to just shift this up till it kind of looks natural with this. Move that around. That's good. Now, you'll notice that in a lot of our videos, we do emphasis colors, so to kind of highlight certain words. Which words do we highlight? Whichever words you want, I suppose. So I'm going to come in here and say, God said, let us make man in our image. That phrase I want to highlight. Now, ironically, not ironically is the wrong word, but I have not yet picked the final color for this, the abortion ministry, branding yet. So we're just going to pick something. I'm thinking about doing a light yellow. That's an ugly yellow, but something like less green, more actual yellow. That looks just terrible. That's just okay, it doesn't matter. The point is you can highlight this, come over to this Essential Graphics, or you can do Effect Controls, either one. Whatever you highlight, you can change the color of. The God Loves Mormons blue color, if you can come down here and type it in, it's 00C6FF. Boom, that makes it blue. So I'll come through later and I'll fix the colors. But just for now, let us make man in our image. Let them, and because I reference authority, we're going to say have dominion. I'm going to do that one too. So 00C6FF and all that. And all this, I could highlight like birds, livestock, every creeping thing, maybe. Yeah, maybe I will. I'll say the birds. The heaven over the livestock. Paste that over the every creeping thing. Just, I don't want the whole center section to be white. I want to add a little color. So God created man in his own image, the image of God. He created them male. We'll do male and female, just so, make sure people know there's only males, There's only females right here. Genesis 1:26-27. Okay, so that's looking okay. And, maybe I'll tweak that later. I'll definitely change the colors. But at least for now, that is 95% of the way there. So what I would do at that point is go through and find the other texts. And I would just copy, paste this over here, and do the entire process over again. Make sure that doesn't go too long. And yeah, do something like that. And I'm not going to do the rest of that right now. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so let's talk about intro and outro. All I do is I go into the old version here, just like I did before. This is the intro. You'll notice there's a different kind of transition. It's like a light burn transition. And then I have this thing here and then that background. Also, this may or may not be helpful. If you ever need to, you can hit comma and you'll hide a layer. So like if I was here and I wanted to hide the background, I could hit comma and it would take away the background. You'll notice anything disabled is what it's called, as that kind of off color. So just in case you want to see what's below it. Additionally, if this is like you're not sure how this looks, if you come over to right before it and hit I and then go right after it and hit O, you can come up here to sequence and then render into out. And what that will do is that will render this section of the video so that you can see what it's going to look like, which is sometimes really helpful if like it's just really stuttery, not good. That will really help you see if it's going to turn out the way you want it to. I do that a lot when we do animation stuff. The animations, if it's really complex, it'll slow down the computer. It's hard to see what it looks like. So I'll do all my edits. I'll render into out, watch it, make the notes of what I need to change, and then go back through and change it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Command C, come over here to my break where I'm, kind of left for the intro, and paste, line up the beginning here. Now, unlike, I guessed really good there. That's pretty remarkable. Unlike the scripture where we wanted to drag this to match, we do not want to drag this in this one because I'll explain why in a little bit. This is already a set After Effects file. And we're going to get into After Effects in a little bit. If I come here, I don't want this, and I can't edit this text in Premiere. It's done with a totally different program, After Effects, like I just said. So I'm going to actually delete that completely. Then down here, in order to make this work, I need to move this file. But you'll note that if I move this file, I cut out part of the other file. So I need to move every file that is right of the file, video track, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I need to move all of those to the right of this point in order to sync it. Luckily, Premiere, you can either go through and you could literally like shift click each thing, or you could drag them all, stuff like that. But Premiere has a built-in ability, which is this right here. It's called Track Select Forward. The shortcut key is A. If I hit A, you'll see those two arrows. And wherever I click, anything that is on from that point to the right of it will become selected. So if I click here, that's going to be selected. If I click here, these will be selected. So I want to move this file, but not this one. So all I have to do is click some point after that, and it will select all the files to the right. So I can then click and move, and you'll see I'm moving all of these files. I'm going to click and move until I, boom, sync this up right there. Then hit V to go back to my selection tool. Great, so we have this spot. It's just kind of blank. We'll get into, like I said, After Effects in a little bit, but for now, go to Image of God Master. If there's not this thing called black video, which there shouldn't be because I didn't make that, you can right-click and go to New Item, and then go to Black Video. You can do the same thing by hitting this little note square thing. It says New Black Video. We want it 1920 by 1080. That's the size of the frame. We hit OK, and it'll drop in a black video in there. I'm going to put a black video in this spot that lasts for the same duration as my background. Later, we'll turn this black video into something that can be sent to After Effects, but that's just the placeholder I use. Now, these number 1s and 2s and 3s are the same thing. You'll notice I'm looking down, but the way I edit that is not in Premiere because it's just easier in After Effects. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this, drag it all the way over, and then drag this black video all the way over. But then I don't want this to be the same file. This is going to be a different thing on screen between the title and this number 1. So I'm hitting my C razor tool, and I'm just going to make a single cut right there. That means when I change this file to be an After Effects file, then it'll just do this section right here. When I do this one, it'll just do that section. It's kind of confusing, but hopefully you get what I mean. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. All these things where I want to do typography, I'm going to go ahead and drag a black video and just put that over there. Pretty sure this is a number 2, so I'm going to copy and paste this because I want this background, which is just our generic cross picture, to be there, and then put the black video. Now, for all of these, you'll notice I need transitions here. I need something to transition into or out of this. Otherwise, it'll just cut. So I'll probably end up taking this transition. I'm not sure what I want to do. I'll probably take this light leak, put the light leak there, and I'm going to get a different transition for this right here. To do that, I'm going to go File, Open. Nope, not. Yeah, nope, that was right. File, Open Project. And then on the left here, we have something called Creative Cloud Files. In this folder, there's this thing called Video Stock. These are just stock video elements I've accrued over time. Go ahead and open that. We have this thing called Rich Transitions. Rich bought a transition pack that has lots of nice looking transitions. That's where we get all of our transitions from. So I'm going to go in there, and I have this full HD 2020 version. I'm going to open that, and it should open. It's a huge file, lots of stuff in there. Okay, so this opened up here, transitions. What I do, I believe, is... I actually don't remember. Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't find it. It's this flat thing right here. I'm going to go to flat and short, because we want something short. And then they're going to have all these different options. I want short, zoom out, left, probably. So take this, drag this in. Oh, not that. Okay, so if you see this, this is not helpful. What I do not want just a file, because how do I get rid of the little panda, polar bear, not panda, different than a panda. Well, if I come over here to this button here, select that, then I can drag in the original source files. That's what I'm going to want to do. Then I'm going to put that back. This is the little panda thing. I can go ahead and delete that. But you'll notice down here, it has a sound effect, which for whatever crazy annoying reason is linked to this first thing there. I don't know why they did that. But I come in here and again, right click and unlink or Command L. And I'm going to delete this. And this will, I can't see it right now because it's just black, but that will shift things left, which is just a nice little transition there. Okay, so that's good there. I'm going to take these light leaks, go back over to, like this is my number. I like the way those look. So I'm going to paste them here, line those up, nice like that. I think this is another one, so we'll come here, do the same thing. We're going to put that there, put this here, line up these transitions, save obnoxiously, come down, there's a image of God, black video, put that here. Oh no, where did it go? Ah! I don't know where my black video went. Whatever, put it there, trim that in, put it up a couple spots so I can see it. And then last, there's another scripture, so we're going to copy this scripture, we're going to put it here. All that same stuff. Now, because this is the end of the video, I'm actually not going to have this transition. I'm going to delete, if I could hit the right button, I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to come back into my old GLM video here, slide all the way down here, and there are a couple of elements I'm just going to straight up steal. The first is this black video. Then I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag all of these. This is the transition, God Loves Mormons, and then the background. Then I'm going to copy, bring that back here, and it'll paste that whole group. Now, because this first one's a transition, that needs to hang over into the previous clip there to start the transition there. That'll start a nifty transition. It's rendering slowly, so, oh, there you go. You can see the light leak. It'll light leak down, and then this is our God Loves Mormons logo. It fades out, and then we have our white background, which I use on YouTube to say, hey, here's a recommended video, here's a suggested video, subscribe to our channel, visit our website, all that stuff. So that's important to have. If you want, you can come over here to the end, right after it ends, and you can hit O, and that marks where the video will end. So this video will be 5 minutes and 53 seconds. Now, it actually won't be that because we have one thing we haven't done that is rather important. Oh, I also forgot. At the very beginning, I always put one of these light leaks right there. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, bring it over. That's one of the transitions, just to give a nice transition in.
Christians believe that all abortion.
Okay, so that's we're getting the flow down here. Haven't touched these things yet. That's okay. We'll get there. Haven't touched our black background. That's all right. We'll get there too. But for now, what we need to do is organize we need to trim our clips a little bit. So it might be hard to find, but if I go right here, you notice this means that there's no audio right in that spot, in between the cut here. So if I go right here and hit play, let's see what it sounds like.
Because it's what the Bible teaches. Scripture tells.
So this right here, I have a little breath thing. It's just kind of an awkward pause that I don't need. So it's good to trim some of those pauses out. So I'm going to go in, delete this. And then there's this nifty thing. If I right click, I can hit ripple delete, which will just collapse all the clips in there. So if I go back and play this.
The Bible teaches. Scripture tells.
So that's a little smoother. You'll notice here I have a little breath at the beginning there. I'm going to actually leave the video because my hands start moving. It would be weird to have my hands come in like hardcore middle move. So I'm going to keep the video there, but cut the audio for the first 2 frames of that video.
Scripture
just like that. I'm going to go through and do that for pretty much all of these. This one's pretty long. So what I sometimes do is I'll select like that, come in here, delete all those, ripple delete, and then I'll try and place.
Yet some people of creation. Yet some people.
Yeah, okay. It's not terrible. Go through. So I'll go through this and do this a little later, but just so you get the sense of kind of how this goes down, I do that.
And thus.
Now, sometimes you'll come across like a scripture. It's probably not a good example. Maybe right here. This is the wrong scripture. We haven't done it yet. But if you listen.
And shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. God is.
Okay, that was a really fast transition from you reading the verse back to speaking to the camera. We want to let it breathe just a second. We don't want it to be awkward, but we do want to allow a little bit of breath. So I'm going to come in here and hit that A button, this track select forward. I'm going to slide everything over maybe just a little bit. Then I'm going to drag out this and maybe extend just the video back a little bit. Maybe compromise, bring that back. Adjust my transition, and this gives just a little bit of breathing room to that transition. Make it not feel so jumpy.
Man in his own image. God is.
Something like that. So a little bit of time for the transition to go before I start talking is nice. That works out really well. So that looks about good there. So I would go through all of the things that I have like that, make sure that those are good. Those often are a problem with these. Number 3, God thinks that puppies are better than cats. And then you need to make sure that because that's a main point of the video, you really want to hang on that a little bit. Again, you don't want it to be noticeable. You don't want it to be awkward. Just give it a beat to pause afterwards. Make sure it flows really nicely. You want it to be natural. You don't want anyone to think about it. That's kind of our goal with editing. People don't need to realize that we edited something. We just want them to watch the video and get the content from it really nicely. Okay, so that's a good start. What I want to do now is show you how I actually zoom in the shots. So if you'll notice, at the beginning we organized all this, and the shots are still exactly the same. So I'm going to come to this first shot. I'm going to hit Effect Controls, maybe adjust my screen a little bit. Now, because we're only using 50% of the frame, that means we can go anywhere between 50 and 100 and get lossless quality. That means that we're not losing data, we're not losing information. It's not going to be an obvious drop in quality if we bump up to 100, which is really nice. That's actually why we got 5K. So this out shot, it's pretty good, but this in shot we're going to want to fix. So we're going to zoom in, maybe like 90, bump this up, turn on our title safe there, and see, that maybe something like, not too much. I like the green in the corner there, like that. The colors are not looking great, but just as a...
Because it's what the Bible teaches. Scripture tells us that...
Yeah, I kind of like that.
God...
That's good. I like the idea of getting pretty close. You don't want this jump to feel obnoxious. Because I really like the tighter shot, sometimes what I'll do is if this is just a little too far out, I might push this into like 54% and then bump that up just to, just to make the difference not feel as dramatic.
Quite simple.
Now, I don't actually think that looks as good, so I'm going to come back up here, hit scale, and hit the not reset, scale. Scale needs to be 50 still. Put the position and put that back to 50. And that's about good. Okay, so now we've done that for our first two shots. This might need just a hair more headroom so that my hair doesn't get out of frame. I hold, again, Command to make fine-tune adjustments. Shift would make giant adjustments. Command, this is me moving my mouse quite substantially. This is normally me moving my mouse quite substantially, so you can see the difference. I'm just going to, something like that. Then I'm going to come up here and click motion, just this motion. If I undo the effects, you can see it changes there. I'm going to click motion and then Command C. What that's going to do is copy just the motion effect into my clipboard. Then I'm going to click and drag all of the top things, all the top video clips there, then hit Command V. And boom, all of them have now been updated with this pushed in shot. Well, the other ones are pushed out. So if we go ahead and hit space,
and we believe this quite simply because it's what the Bible teaches.
Bump in.
Tells us that God made mankind in his image, a fact which makes humanity precious and completely different from the rest of creation.
Bump back out.
Some people argue
Good. Yeah, that's looking good. So I'd go through and make sure that flowed really nicely in some of this. Because this is all one shot, let's say if this one was too long, I could come in here, I could just hit C, I could bump this up like that, bump this down, and, come over here, copy the motion from this clip and put it on this clip. And I could add a new cut. If I just needed a new cut, if a clip was too long or something was funky, I might do that sometimes. So that's good to know. We'll touch about color stuff a little bit. Let's talk music. Let's do music right now. Okay, so for the abortion videos, again, the music's going to be different, but we're just going to use GLM, God Loves Mormons music for now. I come over to the beginning of First Blood. I use I've been doing this recently, one song until I hit this intro, and then I kind of crossfade to the main song. So we have purchased a whole pack of loops, that just audio loops that allow us to basically make the song go on as long as we need it to. So what I'm going to do is copy the first maybe 3 from this thing, come back to the old thing, drag my little clip to the beginning. I'm going to make sure I don't paste over my audio file. That'd be bad. I'm going to move that down there, and boom, there is my paste file. So if I click just a single file, you'll notice that under Level, there are 2 things called keyframes. I don't think we've talked about keyframes. But keyframes are basically how you change attributes over time. So if you'll notice, if I drag this here, down here, my little playhead is moving as I slide this. So they're connected. What this is saying is at this point, when the video begins, my audio level is at 0 decibels, so just normal, regular. And this many frames in, 18 frames in, it drops down to -7 decibels. which just makes the music a little bit more manageable. I like doing that at the beginning, and then the rest of these, it's just staying without keyframes. To add a keyframe or turn on keyframes, you click this little stopwatch. No keyframes there or there. So I'm going to click this thing. It has 7. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to hit the down arrow. Now, the down arrow is a really nifty thing. What that will do is anything that is selected here. So if I were to select this here, if I hit the down arrow, it is going to jump to the end of that clip, which is a really nice tool. So if I unselect all these, I can just hit up and down to move to the beginning and ends of these audio files. Now, really important detail here. You can't forget. You need to, when you're editing the audio, hit these 3 lines and go to Show Audio Time Units. That's because normally this whole program is going to work in terms of frames. This is 30 frames a second, and so you only have divisions of 1/30th per second for audio to work in. But these audio files have much more information than video files, way more information. And so what actually happens is if you edit in only the frames, if you're trying to stretch out or cut or edit audio stuff, you might end up cutting off like 9/10 of a frame worth of audio information without realizing it. So by going into this edit or show audio time units, you can be sure that you squeeze out all the information out of each one of these segments as you can, which is really important. If you don't do that, you're going to end up getting a loop that is kind of cut short, that doesn't flow as well. So that's important to do. I'm going to copy this and just Command V, 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 and that drops my audio in past the title, which is good. I'm going to come back over here, just pick one of the normal audio segments right here, copy that, and paste it right here. Now, because this is going to transition right here, see, this is annoying when this happens. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, to explaining how this works, let's say my title started right here in the middle. What I would do is I would slice both of these, and I would delete this half of the main music, this half of the other music, bring this up. So you can right-click on that little seam, hit Apply Default Transition. Because it's a loop that's synced in every way, this main one just adds more instruments. It's going to sound something like this. Yeah, that's maybe hard to hear. This is just the the little tempo thing, and then this adds some bells, other things, other instruments in. It just makes it sound fuller. But you'll notice here, the beginning of this lines up right there, which is just kind of annoying when that happens. So we're going to essentially do the same thing. Another new tool is this tool here called the Rolling Edit tool. If I want to just move this cut, I can hit N. N is the key for that. And then I can move this edit wherever I want it to be. I'm going to move this edit to be right here. And now if I right-click and apply default transitions, you're going to see that this runs into this cut. And it can't go beyond it because that's just a totally different segment there. So a couple things we could do. One, we could shorten this a little bit and make it even on both sides. We could move this seam out just a hair further. We could actually come in here before we could make the level, and we could kind of manually make a fade up to this point. None of those things really seem worth it to me. I'm just going to go ahead and do this and make it pretty close, and it'll butt up against that, but I don't think anyone will notice. So let's listen to it. I'm going to solo this channel so we can hear just that. There you go. And so that gives just a nice build up into the main thrust of the main title. Now, I do want to, for the title, change this level to be 0 decibels, so we'll get it quite a bit louder. It's probably hard to hear on that mic, but it gets louder. But then I want that to drop back down when we're talking, right? Or when I'm talking. So what I'm going to do is come to right before I start talking. I'm going to click on this file. I'm going to hit my time, or my little stopwatch there, which creates a keyframe. Now, this keyframe marks that at this point in the video, we're going to be at 0 decibels. That's not what I want. What I actually want is right before I talk, I want to be at -12 decibels. Because there's only one keyframe, that just changed the volume of the entire clip. But if I just go just a hair earlier, like that, then I can make this 0 decibels. Everything before this keyframe then is going to be 0 decibels. Everything after is going to be negative 12 decibels. If I listen to this, it'll sound like this.
Number 1.
So the music kind of drops down to let the voice come through, which is what we want. Now, depending on how loud I speak and things like that, I'll adjust the music volume just a little bit. But that at least gets the general idea done. Then the rest of this is going to be that negative 12. I want a fresh clip with no keyframes. So I copied that, come back over here, hit down to get it to the end, and then I'm going to Command V. And this is has that minus 12. And I'm just going to keep hitting Command V through the majority of the video. When I get near the end, this is about good, we switch a song to kind of a conclusion song. So I can come here and take that. It's right here. It's hard to tell, but the waveforms are actually different between this and this. This is simpler, smoother, less going on. So I'm going to take that, come here, and just plop that in. It'll sound like this if I solo it. Kind of drops out some instruments. So that's good. So I'm going to just paste that in there. Now at the end, we have this little extra bit. So what I'm going to do is drag this in to be right here on line with the end of the logo. Right, that. And then I'm going to right click, apply default transition, gives a nice little fade out. The other thing I want to do is this is quieter, but after I'm done talking, I want it to stop being quieter again. So I'm going to do this stopwatch, adds a keyframe, going to drag it over just a little bit. I'm going to come in here and make it 0 decibels, which will make it raise from negative 10 decibels to 0 decibels at this point. This ending song is quieter. So decibels are weird. No, it's not weird at all, actually. The negatives make it quieter, the positives make it louder. Because that file is actually quieter, I need it a little bit louder than the main file. So the main file is the negative 12 decibels. This ending file is negative 10 decibels. And then at the end, I ramp that up to 0, which will give a nice sound for the logo there. And yeah, that's good there. Okay, so now I want to kind of go over a little bit of After Effects, how I manage the After Effects stuff, the title, some of the like the number 1, the number 2, any animation stuff. Now, if it comes to really complex animation stuff, I'll just take it. Just talk to me, and I can do that because I've been working with After Effects for a while, so it'd be easier for me to do that than it would be to try and like teach you all those things. But yeah, so let's go ahead and do this title here. If I go ahead and right click on this black video that we added, we have a thing here that says replace with After Effects composition. I'm going to hit that button. What that's going to do is open up After Effects, which is the AE right here. You remember back at the beginning when we made our folder structure, I did a PRAE. This is where that After Effects folder is going to go. Now, After Effects is on the wrong screen right now. I'm going to bring it over like that. Normally what I would do is I would have After Effects on one screen and Premiere on the other screen in order to go back and forth when I need to. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put it on my main screen here and flip back and forth. So I'm going to go over to the folder that I'm working in, not source. We're going to do image of God, not master. We're going to do AE for After Effects. And boom. So what this has done, you'll notice here, this is black video right there. What this has essentially done is it's taken this right here and it has turned it into this After Effects composition. So whatever I do in After Effects, if I take my type tool and say, hello world, that will then transfer over here to Premiere, which is incredibly useful because After Effects manages just everything better. There's more detail, there's more that we can do in After Effects. So that's going to be really useful. I'm going to go back over here to After Effects. And the name of this video we're going to say is, sorry, I'm putting on my title safe, which is the same thing I had in Premiere where I don't want my words to go outside of that. But I don't know the exact title of the video. We're going to say the image of God. We'll say maybe abortion and and the image of God. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click this. Over here on the right-hand side, I have a bunch of panels up. This is just the default tab. There's a thing called Text Exploder. Go ahead and click that. Now, if Text Exploder is not here, if it's gone, you can come up here to Window, and down at the bottom part here, we're going to have Text Exploder. If that is not there, that means that there's been an After Effects update, and we need to reinstall the plugins, which is not hard, but just something we need to do. Okay, so over here, we can split these into characters, words, lines, or other things. We just want words top to bottom. We're going to hit Apply, and all it does is it takes this one layer, and it makes all these words individual, which is nice because we're going to place these in a certain way, right? So notice if I go to character over here, also, just so you know, V is still the selection tool. It's like that in Premiere. It's like that in After Effects. So anytime if I switch a tool and it's doing something weird, if I hit V, it'll jump back there, and then I can move things regularly. My font is Summer 11. My color is that God Loves Mormons blue 00C6FF. I'm going to go ahead and make that white, and let's just bump this up to 250. And I'm going to, and we'll make 150 maybe, and the abortion, maybe we'll make this bigger. Abortion, and what is this? Is 150. So maybe 150, and the image, this could be 170 of God. And the image of God, I don't know. This doesn't look great. But the point is, you kind of arrange this the way you want it to look. I mean, image of God. This is not great here. Maybe this. Abortion and the image of God. It's 285. 285. So maybe something like that. Now I'd tweak that a little bit more, but that's at least good enough for our purposes here. You headed out? See ya. So I'm going to take the words here that I want to emphasize. Normally the relevant words here, maybe abortion. Hold shift to click. I don't want to do all three, so maybe abortion and image. I'm going to come over here, type in the 00C6FF, makes that GLM blue, and there we go. Now, maybe bring this in a little bit. Maybe we make this bigger, or these smaller. I don't know. You can work with the tweaking, but the point is, you just make what you want it to look like. All of your various layers are down here, so it looks a little different than Premiere. With After Effects, I can adjust timeline on stuff, so very easily make things pop in like that. And if I wanted to, I could put these all at different times. So at certain points, different words would pop in and stuff like that. And that's a really powerful program. In this case, we just want to do something really simple. We want all of these things to kind of grow, just some dynamic movement to the title. So what I'm going to do is come down here, shift click all of these by holding shift. And then I'm going to right click and make a pre-comp. Pre-comp is going to open this little dialog box. I'm just going to name this title. And hit OK. And what this does is it's going to create kind of like the subsequence we made in Premiere, but slightly different, slightly more powerful. It's going to make this other composition. If we double click, inside will be all these individual words. Now, what this allows us to do is we can come in here and we can hit S, which will open up scale. S opens up scale. And at the end of the timeline, see, this is my little time slider here. I'm going to put it all the way to the end, hit this little stopwatch. The scale at the end of the video, this is a keyframe, we did that a little earlier, it's going to be 100%. If I bring this back to the beginning, I'm going to make this 96%. What that's going to do is in the span of this is going to grow from 96% to 100. Now, you can see that just adds a little bit of motion. That's really nice. But you'll notice on this that the image is kind of moving up as it expands. It's not moving out from the center. Notice that the bottom doesn't really move, whereas the top of the A in abortion, you can tell it's really moving up quite a bit. So the reason that is because this has its anchor point in the very center. So the image is moving out from this point here. What I'm going to do is come up here. There's this pan behind anchor point tool. You can get there by hitting Y on the keyboard. V is the select tool. Y is that tool. I'm going to grab this and just put it somewhere near the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. But then you'll notice the picture will scale from the center, which just looks, I think, a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and save. Go back over to Premiere. And we'll notice right here, you see that grow just like that, which is pretty nice. Now, there's one other thing that I think makes things look a lot better, and it's a drop shadow. I pretty much put this on everything. So what I'm going to do is go to the first blood. I already have a drop shadow that I like. All a drop shadow is, it's kind of hard to tell in here, but behind the letters, there's a little bit of black that just kind of separates out the background from the words. It's lacking here, so the words are kind of flatter. I'm going to come over here, go to the same thing in this first blood video that we've been pulling from. Go to Effect Controls. Down here, there's a drop shadow. You can go ahead and copy that, Command-C. Go back over to Image of God. I'm going to click on this new After Effects link and Command-V to drop my drop shadow. And you can tell if I turn it off and back on, you can tell it just gives a little definition around the letters. I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and just up the distance a little bit there. Maybe a little in between. Yeah, something like that. So, not the best. I'll redo that by the time I publish, but you get the idea of what this is supposed to do. Okay, so that is the title there. Now, I'm going to move on to this number 1.
Number 1. Mankind is in the image of
God. Oh, one notable thing, I've been showing you things in this Effect Controls panel. If you go over here to Effects, you can actually find any of these. So let's say you can't find the drop shadow for some reason you really want to import a drop shadow. Type in drop shadow there, and it will come down here with a drop shadow effect. And you just drop that on the thing you want. If you click that item and then go to Effect Controls, the drop shadow is there, and you can adjust all of the settings right there. So all of these effects that I find in the Effect Controls can all be found in this Effects bin. If you go into Video Effects, it's going to have, that's Audio Effects. Video Effects will have all the things that you might need. Magic Bullet, Colorista. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that that's too old to even work with Premiere. It's a plugin. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to right-click, replace this with After Effects Composition. It's going to open the file that we already have open. So you'll notice it just added a new composition. This first one was linked comp 1. This is going to be linked comp 2. It pops up here. I'm going to go ahead and close these just for the sake of cleaning up my work area. Delete that black video. Now what we want is that number 1. So I'm going to come in here and just put a number 1 in Summer 11, and then I'm going to make this white. We're going to blow this thing up to be pretty big. Actually, I don't think this is the font that I use. It might be Babus New. It is. Okay, Babus New is actually the font we want for this number. So this thing's pretty big, this number. Then I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to hold Command D, and that will duplicate this number. So if you see down here, we have 1 and 2. That's just because it can't be the same name, so it thinks that we're trying to number things in order. It's trying to be helpful, but even there's 2 1s on here, so it's not really that helpful. I'm going to go ahead and change this to a pound sign, a number sign, and then you'll see that changes that down there. If I come down here and hit S to scale, I'm going to well, you know what? Instead, I'm actually not going to scale. I'm going to adjust this. I'm curious. Does Summer 11 look good? Maybe. Yeah. What is? I forget what this. Yeah, we'll do that. So we're just going to put that there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to this rectangle tool, Q for that. And we're going to go ahead and just draw a rectangle right up next to this one. Now, we can't see the one. I'm going to hit V for my selection tool. That's because this shape layer is on top of that. So if I hit this eyedrop to hide that shape layer, we'll see what's underneath. So all I'm going to do is click and drag this below my other layers, and that gives me this, where now I can see that number 1. Well, what I really want is for this to be in the GLM color. So 00C6FF will make that blue that we use. I'm going to shift this over just a little bit. Let's move these. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so if I turn off my title safe, there we have this, but that's kind of a boring rectangle. So what I want is to add some texture. So what I'm going to do is go over here, and I can double click, or I can go File, Import, or I can do Command I, whatever you like. And if you go to the Creative Cloud files, under that video stock thing in here, I have this folder called Stills. If you click that, we have stock textures, which is not the one we want. We want grungy textures. And then it has high and low res, grayscale color. I want a grayscale. And I'm going to pick one of these just by hitting spacebar that I think gives some nice texture. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to go ahead and open Grunge Gray 3. Oh, okay, so what it did is it just imported all of those images. That's because you see here it says importer JPEG sequence. I do not want that on. I want that turned off. So I'm going to come back to 3 and re-import. You could tell that it wouldn't work. If I drag this in, it would actually be a video that plays through all of the things in that folder, which is really not helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. This grunge gray, I'm just going to bring over, and ooh, it's nice and big. I'm going to scale this down. And then you'll notice here there's all these different options. I'm going to come down here and hit this toggle switches / modes button. It's going to pop up this little drop down box. What I want to do is click on this and go to overlay. If I can find overlay. Here it is, overlay. And what that is going to do is it's going to basically change the way this image interacts with the images behind it. You'll notice that that essentially textures this little blue box, which looks pretty nice. So after that, I'm going to come in here. Yeah, that will work. Okay, after I come in here, I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool. I could hit Q and make sure this is clicked. If it's not clicked, you're just going to draw another rectangle. That's not what we want. We want to do something called a mask. So what we're going to do, click on this, click your rectangle tool, and as I draw, you'll see that I can control what part of that image is shown. So I'm going to go and just get it right on that edge. I'm going to zoom in, option in and out. We'll zoom the whole thing in or out. I'm going to hit V and just nudge that over so that it is right on the line. Now, you'll notice here there's a bit of a white border for this rectangle. I really don't want that. So I'm going to come up here to the stroke width. It's 2 pixels wide. I'm going to go ahead and hit 0. That's going to get rid of that little white outline. But now you can see this is just a little bit off. I'm going to try and get that perfectly on. Nope, that went the wrong way. Nope. It's good enough, okay? So that is okay, but I don't love how strong that color is. So if I come here, I can hit the T key. It's going to open my opacity thing. Opacity is transparency, essentially. I'm going to take this and drop this down to maybe 30%. And, you know, that's good, something like that. And, let's say if I really wanted, that's just not enough contrast. I can hold Control Spacebar to open my effects finder. You can also go to effects and presets over here, but that's too many clicks for me. Control Spacebar. This is a plugin I have for After Effects. I'm going to type curves which will add a curves effect on this. If I do this, you'll notice that by changing the curves of this background image, we can actually change what the overlay looks like. So I can bring it down and make it kind of a darker blue. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just up the contrast. That's way too much. Just a little bit. And then drop down the opacity. And yeah, that just makes the darker parts just a hair darker. And the brighter parts just a hair brighter. Without, I just think that adds just a little bit of something that I like. Okay, so that is looking pretty good to me. Last thing I want to do is on this 1 and number 1, we are going to control spacebar. Oh, can't do that. Okay, one at a time. Just the number 1 control spacebar, and we're going to add a drop shadow. Going to pull that on there, opacity all the way up. We're going to put the distance at maybe 7, and then the softness we'll make go, we'll drop this down to 5. We'll actually drop down the opacity maybe to something like that. I'm going to copy this drop shadow effect, go over to the number key and put that there. And boom, there you have a nifty number 1 that you can use for all sorts of things. What I'm going to do is highlight all these, right-click, pre-compose them, and I'm going to name this layer or this pre-comp number 1. That will then put them all in there, and I can turn it on and off nice and easy. At that point, what I'm going to do is come back to Premiere, and I'm going to hear what I said.
Number 1, mankind is in the image of God.
Mankind is in the image of God. Very profound. Okay, going to come up to the typing thing here. Make sure I'm set on Summer Lovin'. And say, mankind is in the image of God. Or I forget exactly what it was. I'm turning my title safe back on. Going to bump this up here. Maybe new line there. And then I have all my effects over here. I'm going to move this up so that there's not as much space between it. Maybe font a little bigger, move that down. I'm going to come to a line and align vertically so it's in the exact center of the screen. I'm going to add a period. So we're going to say mankind, and we'll make that our 00C6FF, and then maybe image 00C6FF of God minus the period 00C6FF. Okay, and do whatever you think looks best. Oh, didn't want to do that. Oh man. Good. Okay. And then what I'll do is, I'm going to come in here, do another control space, and we're going to do a typewriter. You know what? We're going to character. Instead, we're going to fade up characters, which is just going to add a nice fade in effect. So if you hit U, that is an automatic keyframe for you that automatically does the transition. If you hit U, it'll open up your keyframes. So I probably say number 1 first. So I'm going to offset this, stretch this out to be maybe there. And then I come over to Premiere, and I'm going to test it. So let's see. We're going to turn off our transition stuff here so that it renders a little bit better. Let's just see what it sounds like.
Number 1, mankind is in the image of God.
Okay, so this text finished just a little too fast. So we're going to stretch that out just a little bit more. Maybe push this up just a hair. Come back.
Number 1, mankind is in the image of God.
Yeah, that's okay. If I don't like that effect, I can come out over here, and if I hit Command tilde, it will open up all of the things I can do. I can come to Animator 1 and just hit Delete. Undo that. Let's say I really wanted typewriter instead, the first one I was going to do. Hit U to show my keyframes. We'll put a keyframe there, right? And typewriter does a similar thing. It just pops in instead of fading in.
Number 1, mankind is in the image of God.
All right, that's good enough. So I'm going to come over here in Premiere, go to my Effect Controls, copy this drop shadow onto this right here, and that gives some definition behind there. But I want that really soft, so I'm going to bump that up to maybe 30-ish, just to give it a little something. So again, if I hit my comma key and blank it out, you can see that the background is totally separate. That's why on After Effects, the background's black. I can hit this transparency key. That shows that that black is actually transparent, meaning that whatever's under it will be the thing that shows. So if I were to hide this layer down here, it would actually put that in front of me. And while I do always want my face on screen, in this case, I think it might be just a little distracting. So we're going to keep that background up there. So that's good. That's we'll re-enable these layers to see how it looks with the transitions. There you go. There's that. And then it'll zip over. See how it's stuttering? It's okay. Okay, it's pretty good. So when it comes to things like this, where this is typography, where it says, so we can right-click, replace with After Effects thing. I'm going to turn off transparency. I can do, uh-oh, where did my stuff go? What in the world? Where are my tools? Tools. Very strange. Okay. I must have hit Command, when I was trying to hit tilde. That's Command 1. That's what it is. In any case, so this new comp is up. I forget what I said, but we'll say mankind is cooler than apes. Maybe that's what I said. Then I do that same thing. I'm going to come up here, text explode this. Boom, it makes my different layers. I'm going to hide that bottom main layer. Select these, go character. I'm going to make them white. And then I'm going to arrange them in a way that's helpful. So mankind will make that big, is kind of make that small. Cooler. That we should way cooler than apes. Okay, let's say I like the way that looks. I'm just going to kind of center that. Then I'm going to go back over to Premiere, and oh no, I put it on the wrong side of the screen. That's a bummer. So we're just going to take this, move it over here, rearrange. Mankind is cooler than apes. Check that out. Okay, that doesn't really work, so we're going to need to make this cooler. Go down a little bit in size. Move this is over. Maybe the apes needs to go down. Maybe we do than apes or something like that. That looks terrible. I'm just giving you the idea. Okay. And then cooler, we'll 00C6FF. Great. So then I'd come over here and I'd listen to what I said. And then I would try and time when these words pop up by, kind of adjusting where they pop in right here. So if I hit spacebar, you'll see they pop in at different times. It's obviously backwards. But by doing this is the particular layer. You adjust that, you time it. It's hard to do on one screen because I'd have to go back and forth. But with two screens, I make the adjustment of the timing here, and then I go over to Premiere, and I would play. And sometimes if you use the arrow keys, you can advance frame by frame. Well, right now I forgot I still have my audio time units turned on. Frame by frame, and I can kind of hear the first moment when I start to say a word. And in that moment, I'll try and sync that with when the words pop up, so that when I say the word pops up, and that's kind of a cool effect, highlighting what I'm saying. And then let's say I had it all synced. I'd come over here. Not that one. I'd take my drop shadow, copy it, paste it on there, get the drop shadow. It's just a little too hard. I'm going to soften that up. Look at how big of a difference that drop shadow makes. It blends in too much. That gives it some definition and helps it pop out. Now, sometimes you'll notice like I'm too far over right there. That's not helpful. So sometimes I'll cheat a little bit with this image, this camera shot of me. I'll zoom in just a little bit, and then I'll adjust my position over. Make sure you don't let any black in on the side when you do that. But then I just kind of put it to where it gives my words more space. I'll do that sometimes if I just have too many words and I don't want to make them smaller, I can kind of fudge the camera shot a little bit, and no one will notice the difference between that and that when they're watching, because this difference is still pretty dramatic, you know. So I might do something like that. And yeah, so I'm not going to go through all of these, but you get the general gist with that. A couple things I want to show you with After Effects just in case. Let's say with this, I wanted the 1 to slide into frame before this words popped up. What I could do is I could come to when the words start popping up. Remember, we pre-comped number 1, so it's all just one item. I can hit P on my keyboard, which opens position. If I stopwatch that, that means that at this time, the position is going to stop right there. If I move to the beginning, I can slide my horizontal positioning over. You'll see this tells you where it's going to move each frame. If I hit spacebar, it slides in just like that, which is kind of cool. If I wanted to make it even really fancy, you can right-click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and do Easy Ease In. This is going to affect the timing, so it's not just linear. It gives it a little bit of a curve, which is really, really nice. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. But you'll see here it kind of, nope, it barely does it. No, I want... All right, well, I am not doing this well. Why can I not select my... Maybe I need to be on speed graph. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Right-click, speed graph. I can adjust this curve so I could make it even more dramatic. Hit this little thing to go back and forth, and then you'll see what it looks like. So it really slows up at the end. You can see even in the frames there with the little dots how that works. That just makes it look a little nice. If you wanted to do that, you could do that. Okay, last thing we're going to do is talk about color grading. Color grading is really difficult. It's not fun. It just stinks. On this 2-screen edit, which I'm going to click, it basically puts this image on the other screen, which all that does is allows me to have more space for stuff. But the reason I like it is because over here is the color grading things. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit color. This is really important. If you're editing on this iMac, the main iMac screen will not display the colors correctly. You must have the image that you're color grading on the not Mac screen. It's too complicated to go into why that's the case. It has to do with color space. But so what you're going to see on screen right now is not accurate. You're going to have to color grade on another screen. Really, really important. That's why the 2-screen edit's critical for this. But just to show you how it works, I'll do it on this screen. It's not going to look as good as I had hoped it would, though. So if we just pick our clip, we're going to go ahead and click that. And we're going to see a bunch of options over here. The first thing that I like to do is come over here and play with my contrast. Now, contrast, if I lower contrast, it's going to make the highlights and the darkness flat. You notice my face just looks really flat here. Here, there's way too much contrast. So I might put it up a little bit. You know, I don't know. Play around with it. Maybe bring it down. I kind of want... You know, there's a lot of color on my face. So if I go to creative, I might bring down the saturation just a little bit, or maybe some of the vibrance. Play around with that. Once I get kind of a look that's okay, I come over here to creative, and actually, in this little thing here, I hit this arrow key, and this arrow key will bring you through preset looks that kind of just add a filter of color to this. I really like... What's it called? It's the one right before the first monochrome is probably my favorite. I really like the look of this, but I use other ones from time to time, so I might adjust the saturation there. So like this is too dark, that's too white. Maybe I'll bring my saturation down and I'll bring my shadows up. No, because that's not really doing what I want. So I could come over here to, I know I'm flying through this, but my midtones and adjust some of the midtones, which is different than the shadows. So I could make my shadows low and my midtones high, and I don't know, that doesn't look good. I'm just giving you an example of kind of some of the things you could do. Double-clicking resets any value. So anyways, let's say my color temperature's off. I can make things warmer or cooler. It's not really a problem right here. You can hit auto. I usually don't like auto at all. I just am not a fan. But, hey, to each his own, right? So, so this screen does not capture the contrast rate, so it never feels right. There's that codec on there. Look at how different that is with that on. So, I don't know. This button here will globally mute effects, which is sometimes helpful. Like if you have lots of drop shadows and stuff like that, like this, if I hit effects, this background has tons of color effects on it. So I don't know, that's just a helpful thing to know. In any case, you can see the difference here. It might be a little too dark still on my face. So I spend a fair amount of time tweaking this. But once I get it, I copy the Lumetri color and I will zoom out and I will put all of them on these bottom videos here. Then I will move over to the top one, paste it there, and make sure that these two shots look alike. They do. So then I would do the same thing there. I'd copy it and put it on all the top ones. And yeah, so that's more or less all the various components of editing that I do. Obviously, there's more I could go into, and I probably forgot things that I just clicked around and didn't explain them well. But this should at least give you a basic idea of what you do. This is really helpful because I can't do all this editing. So having someone learn even this much, even if you didn't touch After Effects, just cutting them up, getting them in order, putting where the script should, that would just save me so much time. So even knowing the very basics of this would be a really big help. Last thing would be if you want to render, I'm going back to my editing view here. If you want to render, make sure your out and in points are set. You're going to come up to File, Export, Media. It'll think, and then it'll pop up here with the export, and you kind of drag through and see what you're looking at. I always go to where I'm rendering it, Abortion Vids, February 2021, render. I do Image of God, and I start with draft 1, and then I just count up and go draft 2, draft 3, draft 4. So the highest draft is the number I've used. The reason I did that is because I used to do like final, really the final this time, and I would do that a bajillion times, and so this is just way better. So Image of God draft 1, hit save. I'm not going to explain what these settings mean, but this is what I just do. Come down here to encoding settings. I change profile to high and level to 5.2. Then I scroll down again, hit render at maximum depth. Make sure the frame rate is 2997 and that the width and height is 920 by 1080. That's important. Sometimes that'll change. Then I scroll down to this bitrate settings. I'm going to change this to VBR 2-pass. That's variable bitrate 2-pass. For target bitrate, I make that 20 megabits a second, and then maximum bitrate is 25. And I make sure use maximum render quality is checked, and then I hit export. And it will spend its time exporting through the whole video and make a file there. For something like this, it would probably take 20 to 30 minutes to render this video. If it was my computer, my laptop, it would take 4 hours. So this computer's a beast at that. And then I upload it. And when I upload something, I set it to unlisted, and we don't need to worry about that right now. But that is essentially how I make these videos. So I'll probably do more of these kinds of videos to help clarify some of the things I just totally glossed over. Maybe do another video to just solidify what's going on. But yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was helpful for you. And yeah, see ya.